Scotland get their Six Nations campaign underway in terms of getting a win over Italy in Rome. 17 points to nil. It's another game where the Italians failed to score a point. They'll be particularly disappointed with that at home. And just given that neither of these teams had won a game going into this game, it was, potentially Italy's best chance to get a result. Not to be. It definitely wasn't the prettiest game you'll ever see in terms of some of the handling. The breakdown work was definitely one where sides were doing better without the ball. Plenty of sides turning each other over, but in terms of building up a bunch of phases, it wasn't really a game for that. But yeah, in terms of counter-rucking and getting pilfers and whatnot, there was plenty of that on display. The scrums kind of went both ways, so it was, I guess again it took a bit of magic to actually get some tries, and you could probably say that all three of the tries that were scored took that little bit of X factor to break the defence down. I'll go over some of the key moments of the game, some of the stats, and as always, you guys can let me know your thoughts at the end. Started early with Scotland conceding a scrum penalty, but the next one went the other way. This is what I'm talking about overall. The scrums seemed to not be totally one-sided. Sutherland was certainly doing pretty well for Scotland. Hastings missed the penalty early on, about 9 minutes. Pretty easy kick, I thought. And then not long later, he kicked it out on the full. So his game was kind of a mixed bag. He finished it well, but it certainly wasn't all smooth sailing for him. The Italians, I've written down a few of them, but many chances they had not converted. One of them was Bellini and Hayward. They made a big line break, the two of them, and they just couldn't finish it off. They weren't opting for threes though. Anytime they got a penalty, they were kicking for touch. They were going for a maul, but the maul, it wasn't looking dangerous. The Scottish were able to shut down the maul with relative ease. The line out, I think the percentages for both sides were pretty good, but some of the line out wins, even if they did win it, they didn't win it cleanly. It was a bit ugly. So the execution was kind of not all there. Eventually, though, 23 minutes, Hogg gets the first try of the match. Up until that point, we're scoreless. When he scored this try, he very deliberately cradled the ball in two hands as to make sure he didn't drop it. Same thing he did with the Exeter Chiefs last week. He ended up scoring it down on the right wing, but he set it up pretty much all himself. He dummied, went into some space, and just put the hammer down and was too quick for Hayward. So 5-0 with a missed conversion. Scotland in front. They almost had another one in kind of quick succession for Price, but there was a massive forward pass from Watson. It did go. He ended up getting man of the match, but still that pass was fairly forward, I think. It wasn't all him. It was the man receiving, perhaps running slightly too far ahead, but either way, they TMO'd that one, and sure enough, they chalked off the try. 37 minutes. After being in the Scottish 22 a few times, Italy did opt to shift their strategy to start accumulating points. They took a shot at goal. Allen hit the post, so it went in half-time, 5 points to nil. So relatively low scoring first half. Second half, the Scots had a pretty golden chance for a try. Bradbury, he was through a gap that was created by a little Watson run. And he did a very nice offload, did Bradbury, to Ritchie, and Ritchie couldn't take it. You could say Pelledri tackled him early, or maybe he hit the ball, but either way, the ball was knocked on, so it was a missed chance for Scotland. They did, though, convert on 47 minutes, and it's one of the few times when they really, really built a ton of phases. I think it was 17. They built phases mostly through the forwards, and eventually when they did release the backs, Harris went in on a nice angled run. And the Italian defense couldn't stop. I think it was Minozzi and Pelledri. Just with that angle and that position on the field, he was too hard to stop. That missed the conversion as well. I think that one hit the post, and it was 10 points to nil. The Italians did kind of hit back. They weren't just kind of rolling over and dying. They got a scrum penalty pretty much straight away. But, there was some handbags and nothing kind of came of it. They did have a big counter at one point, and again, it was Hayward in the build-up and Minozzi with some good steps. But as the Scottish defence covered and they went through the regular phases, they got turned over at the breakdown once again, which was kind of the story of the day for the Italians. Create a chance and then get turned over. Ricconi did end up getting stretchered off, which was pretty concerning. You never like to see that, but he kind of gave his thumbs up to the crowd, which was a little bit of good news. Cummings put some pressure on a loose Italian line-out ball at one point, kicked it through. It was looking dangerous, but this is what I'm talking about. The loose line-out ball was also a thing. 69 minutes, Dunny got yellow carded for a tip tackle. So the Scots went a man up. For the most part, they weren't able to make much of the extra man advantage with the Scots, but they did manage to score one try on 79 minutes through Hastings. I'm not sure how much the yellow card had to do with it, to be fair. It was just kind of end-to-end plays, turnover ball, and then Hastings went down the blind side when nobody was there and canted over for a try that was, one that he will never score, an easier one. He drop-kicked it over to make it 17-0 to try and get time for one last try, perhaps, for a bonus point. This is after he's kicked the ball into the crowd. After he scored the try, he kicked the ball into the crowd, but then they decided to rush and go for a drop goal, but I guess heat of the moment, but there still wasn't enough time. The Italians actually finished up with the final attacking play, kicked it through. Nothing came of it. So, 17-0. Pretty convincing win in the end in Rome. I think a lot of people picked that one to be a lot closer, especially after the Italians' performance against the French in their last game. But, there were certainly chances. Just neither side, apart from some key moments, really able to capitalise. The Scots could have had more. The Italians probably could have had a couple, but not to be. You look at the tackling percentages, both sides pretty good. 85% for the Italians, 89% for the Scots. That's pretty high. The Scots made 166, the Italians made 181. So there was a lot of tackling and defending going on in this game. It was the story of the day. Run meters 413 to 561. That's in Scotland's favour, and that's a pretty open running game. So it's surprising that there's not more points on the board, but when you read those tackle stats, it kind of makes sense. Possession, Italy 48, Scotland 52. Territory 42, Scotland 58. So, Scotland were able to really dominate where the game was being played. Turnovers conceded was definitely a killer for both sides. 17 by the Italians, 15 for the Scots. So, again, no continuity for the most part. And when they finally did get some continuity, he managed to score a try. But, good crowd, good weather. It's surprising that, that game up in Scotland a couple of weeks ago against England, that finished 13 points to 6. There were more points scored in that weather than in this one, which was a beautiful day. So, I guess that's just the way it goes sometimes. Bellini had 74 run meters, 5 defenders beaten. Hogg had 136 run meters, 4 defenders beaten, couple of clean breaks. So, it was a pretty interesting game. I don't think it'll go down in the history books as a classic because, like I said, it was one where the defense probably got on top a wee bit more, and a surprising amount of loose ball for what as I mentioned, were pretty good conditions for playing rugby. And also some kind of uncharacteristic errors, I mentioned Hastings missed the penalty, kicked out on the full, missed the tackle on Bellini, so Russell, he's still going to come into the conversation even though he didn't play. Bradbury at one point knocked on a metre out after going through some phases. So, despite throwing a great offload to Watson for the other one, he was guilty of making a mistake himself. Hayward, despite a good game, like I said, he was pretty much skinned by Hogg for his try. I did mention Ritchie with that knock on, but at one point, when the Scots turned over the ball again, he hoofed the ball long, and it was a pretty great touch finder for a big Lucy. So I'll give him some credit for that. So even Hogg, despite having probably one of the better games, even he kicked it out on the full at one point. So nobody was really perfect in this one, but you definitely give credit to Scotland for going away after 2 losses and picking themselves up to get a win. Wasn't perfect. But I think we've seen the Italians' defence, apart from that first game against Wales, where it kind of fell apart at the end. is pretty sturdy. So the Scots really had to work for it to get that result. And sure enough, they got it done. So good win. Be interesting to see how they go going forward from here. Is this going to be a shot in the arm, or is it going to be nothing much of anything? We will see. I'm off to watch Wales and France. Haven't seen it yet. I have heard the result. It's been on the radio. It's been all over the radio, so couldn't avoid it. That's a bit of a bugger, but I still want to see the game. But yeah, you guys let me know your thoughts on this one. How did you think it went? I'll put a link in the description in case you guys are keen on getting some rugby gear. Scottish gear, Italian gear, it's on sale there. 10% off if you use the code 2cents10 when you're at the checkout. So yeah, you guys let me know your thoughts, guys, and I'll talk to you again soon. See you later.